Are you ready? Now the first thing is we need to prep the yeast. What do I mean by that? You need to activate the yeast. So we're going to put 2 cups of warm water into a small bowl. Make sure it's not hot and make sure it's not cold. It's just warm. Then you're going to take your rapid rise yeast and you're just going to sprinkle it on top of your water. Do not dump in because then it makes pockets of yeast and that doesn't taste good. All right, got that one done. Now I'm going to add my second one. We're making a turtle with our bread and we really want it to puff up. That's why I'm adding more yeast than normal. Like I wouldn't add this much yeast for pizza dough. And now you're going to see something happen. I'm going to take 1 tablespoon of sugar and I'm going to sprinkle it on top of my warm water. And what happens is it wakes up the yeast. Yeast stays dormant, doesn't do anything until you add it into water. And then to really get it going is to add some sugar. It's kind of like us, when we eat sugar, we kind of perk up. And you're going to stir this until you get all those nooks and crannies out. And we're going to cover this for about 5 to 10 minutes to make sure it's completely activated. It's going to look like muddy water. Our yeast is done. You can see it looks really kind of creamy looking. That means it's really activated. I've already included 2 cups of all-purpose flour. I'm going to add 1 more cup. Now this recipe does call for 5 cups, but we're going to add in the other rest of the flour a little bit later. So this is my 3 cups of flour. Now what I'm going to do is make a little bit of a well here. I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of sugar. That's the last part of sugar. It doesn't make it a super sweet bread, but what it does is it keeps activating that yeast. And then 1 1/2 teaspoons of salt. So that's a 1 teaspoon, and then this is a half. Make sure you sprinkle it. Don't dump all in the same area. We're going to stir that around. I'm going to take that yeast. I'm going to pour it into the center of my bowl. Try to get as much as you can into the bowl. And then I already melted 3 tablespoons of butter. And the thing is that it kind of helps you. You can see these lines where it says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 8 tablespoons in a half a stick of butter, which means a half a cup. And I'm gonna pour that in there. It's gonna give our bread some flavor. Now we're going to stir that. And it's going to make a sticky dough, which is fine because we're gonna add flour as we go. And as you can see, as it's sticky, it is staying close to the bowl. When you add flour and create the bread dough, you're going to see that it's going to unstick from the sides of the bowl. But I wanna make sure that I get all this stirred first. And I've got 2 more cups to go, right? So I'm gonna add 1 cup here. Again, you can either do this at 1 cup intervals or half a cup. So if you're doing 1 cup, you're gonna add 2 more cups. If you're adding half cups, you'll do 4 of those. So I'm gonna add a cup and I'm gonna stir that. You're gonna start to see, is it going away from the bowl? Yep, starting to. It's still a little sticky, so you know we're gonna need this dough. So, okay, now I'm gonna add 1 more cup. 1 more cup. we're just gonna stir this very carefully so that the flour doesn't fall up into our face or on the counter. And just keep stirring. Okay, now that your dough is just like this, it's come against the bowl, the sides, we're going to use our flour board or a counter, and we're going to take a little bit of flour and put it on the counter. And this is the fun part for kids, is the kneading part. So if you like to work with Play-Doh, this is like perfect. So you're just going to take your palms and press in, fold over, bunch up, palm, fold, bunch up, palm, fold, bunch up. Now that we've kneaded it for 2 minutes, we're going to take our bowl and plop it back in there. And we're going to take a towel and cover it and put it in a warm spot for 1 hour. Now that our dough has been sitting for an hour, I'm going to take my board again, add a little bit more flour than I had before, lift up my towel, and you can see that it has doubled inside. So go ahead and dump it out. Dump, dump, dump. Here it goes. Got a little bit in there. Okay. Might be a little sticky. If it is, we're just going to keep adding some flour. Okay, so we're just going to keep kneading it, just kind of toss it around. And now we're going to make our turtle. So now we're ready to make our turtle. So what you're going to do is take about almost over a half, maybe a little bit more than that. And you're going to, that's going to be the body, okay? That's the body of the turtle. Then we need to make 5 balls, but one of them needs to be a little bit larger, which is going to be the turtle's head. Then we're going to do 5 little balls. Okay. I kind of want to make sure they're all even. So if I don't see that they are, I'll pull some aside. Okay. All right, now that we have these 4 little, actually 5. Now that we have these 5 little small pieces plus the head, we're gonna move our cutting board aside, bring in a lined baking sheet. If you do not have parchment paper, you can actually use, just put a little bit of oil on the bottom. So what we're gonna do is kind of form it into a turtle shell, which is more of like an oval, like that. Okay, now I'm gonna take my big piece, and this is going to be the head of the turtle. What I'm gonna do is lift it up a little bit like this, because that's how turtles are. They kind of come out of the shell. Okay, then I'm gonna roll a little ball. I'm just gonna lift up here, and this is gonna be his little foot, one of his feet. I'm gonna roll it up again. Do like that. I'm gonna lift it up again. Give him, doesn't have to be perfect, because when it bakes, it all forms into kind of like a big ball. Okay, now I'm gonna use this last piece to kind of wiggle around to make it a little bit longer, so that I'm gonna lift it up and kind of go like this to make a tail, a little tail like that. All right, we're not ready to go in the oven. These are gonna be covered again for just 30 minutes this time. All right, it is time to look at our turtle. Let's see. Yes, is that adorable? Okay, we're gonna give him a little bit of a shell now. So using a knife, be very careful. You're going to do kind of like a tic-tac-toe. Just go across. A tic-tac-toe is basically 4 lines, 2 this way and then 2 across. If you want, you can add more. You can do one here, you can do one here. Now we want to give our turtle a little bit of shine. So what I did was I cracked 1 egg and I'm just going to use a fork to mix it up, and either using a pastry brush, you can actually use your hand, or back of a spoon. And what you're going to do is just take your pastry brush or the back of a spoon and you're just gonna brush on the side. You wanna preheat your oven right now to 400 degrees. It's a hot oven because you want to bake that shell really quickly and get all of that moisture to stay in the turtle. When you bake slow, at a lower temperature, what happens is you get a moist bread all around, but we want that nice crackly shell because we're going to cut into it to add our soup or our dip. Okay, so just go ahead and give them a little bath, little egg bath. You can do that on there too. Okay, we are ready to put our little friend, oh, I forgot the tail, our little friend. And if you want, you can kind of make the tail look more like a, all right, we're gonna put this in the oven all right, we're gonna put this in the oven for 25 minutes. I'm gonna check it. If I don't see the shell completely brown, then I'm going to leave it in for another 5 minutes. Here we go. When your turtle is all the way out of the oven and cool to the touch, you're gonna have a hard shell, like a sea turtle. And you're just gonna take a knife, I've already started, and you're just going to carefully, get your parents' help, make a circle around. Doesn't have to be perfect, in the dough. And then what you're gonna do with your knife is kind of lift up, lift it up. Try not to break it. There. And inside you have this bread. Now you can take this bread and make it into little pieces that they can actually use to dip into soup or to some dip. We're gonna do dip today. And if you don't want that, then you can just throw it away. Now you want to put it on a nice platter. It's going to be a nice presentation. Okay, now you can either put some dip, which I have here. I have some onion dip, or you can add some soup. You can either put it in like this, which is what I'm going to do, because I want to be able to slice up the bread later for something else. I don't want it all soggy. Then you can add your things on the sides. You've got some celery and some carrots. This makes such an amazing appetizer. So cute. Now, if you have any raisins or chocolate chips, you can add them right here. And there you have your beautiful sea turtle presentation. Isn't that adorable?